My name is Charles Stern. I'm with United Way of Greater Atlanta, and we're here to talk about taxes, which is really exciting. This is Adulting 101, is that? Okay. So taxes are like probably the most Adulting 101 topic that you can come up with. I'm going to talk about today the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, which is a program that we partner with the IRS on. And what you can see here, it's a program that provides free and safe tax preparation for families and individuals across the country. We're the implementing partner in the greater Atlanta area, so we have over 40 sites in Atlanta, including one at KSU, which I'll talk about in a bit. And they offer free tax prep to anybody that makes $67,000 or less if you have a disability or if you have limited English speaking household members. So we provide free tax preparation through community partners, including KSU. And the whole idea behind it is that we believe, and it's the reason why we're involved in it, is that it shouldn't cost anything to have your taxes prepared. A, and B, we want to make sure that everyone who's eligible, and most of the people on that eligibility list, are getting the tax credits and refunds that they're entitled to. So some people don't file taxes because they're scared to do it. They think they're going to owe a lot of money. Sometimes they do owe some money, but if you don't, first of all, it's the law. You have to file if you have income. Second of all, an income over a certain threshold. Second of all, you could be losing out on refunds or tax credits that you're eligible for. So just wanted to show you all kind of like what our free tax prep program does in our local community. So it's a program that's run by volunteers. So we have over 300 volunteers. We have some, and I'm going to do a little pitch later, we have some KSU students who are volunteering at the KSU site this year, and we're always interested in more if you're interested in participating. So we had over 300 last year. We did over 11,000 returns at our VITA sites, and then we did 706 through our direct file product, which is called My Free Taxes. And overall, a $20 million impact on the Metro Atlanta community. So the way our VITA program works is we have a coalition of sites that we have physical sites all over. It's a 13 county region that we work with. We implement it through volunteers, and we have different options. So we actually have both in-person and virtual options. The types of VITA sites that we have a classic VITA site, which is essentially like if you go, you might know, you see like the H&R Block on your block, where people go in and get their taxes done. It's like that. I mean, people just go in, they make an appointment, or they walk in and they sit with a tax preparer and they have their taxes prepared. We also have a leave and retrieve model where people drop off their documents, and then they come back later and sign it and have the taxes transmitted. We also have what we call a doc drop and go model, which is folks go and get their documents scanned and it's uploaded to a portal where the taxes are prepared off-site. And then we have a 100% virtual model where people can go in. There's a website that people can go to and upload documents, upload their identification. It's a secure portal, and then it connects them to a VITA site in the local community. So that self-prep one I talked about, and I asked before if any of y'all had any income. My daughter is, she is 17. She works for Mathnasium part-time, about 15 to 20 hours a week, and did not have a huge income amount in her W-2, but she filed last year through My Free Taxes, which is very easy. It's like TurboTax, and she got a small refund. So my recommendation always is if you're making, any income, it's probably worth it to file your taxes because you're probably going to get a refund. Depending on, you're going to make sure that they're withholding, and usually your employers, if you're getting a W-2, are withholding. But it can't hurt. It's good to get into the practice of it. So I talked about volunteers, so this is kind of going a little off topic, but we are always interested in recruiting volunteers. College students are some of the best VITA volunteers around the country and the most engaged. It's a really good opportunity to learn new skills. So we actually do training for folks to become tax preparers and intake specialists. Outreach and greeter takes less training certification. Obviously, there's more on the tax prep side. You do have to pass a tax law certification test in order to do it, but we have tools and resources that can help you do that. And then there's the quality reviewer position, which is actually for some of our more experienced volunteers. So if you were to become a volunteer, you'd probably be more along the lines of a tax preparer or intake specialist to start out. But we're always up for people who want to get the word out about the program. So if you wanted to do outreach, we can hand you postcards and flyers. We can send you social media messages just to get the word out. So Georgia does not have, so there are a number of states right now that have a free direct file option through the IRS. Georgia is not one of those states right now. So I think there's like 24. They started it last year and they've expanded it. I will point you to, so if you want to do taxes by yourself, and I'm judging y'all are all students, so you probably would qualify. I mean, I'm next to positive you qualify. Our myfreetaxes.com is just like TurboTax, and it's a self-file option that you can use.
Is that the same as Free Tax USA?
That might be another, I think that's another free file option. The one that we use, there's a few different ones out there. The one we use is My Free Taxes, so you can access either. So, I mean, in terms of the basics, so everybody kind of has had, for those of you who filed, have had different experiences. It's helpful to sometimes go to a professional, to have somebody kind of walk you through it. It's helpful if you've got your dad who's helping you take you to a provider too. But sometimes you can have a very simple return. It could be easy to do it through a self-file option. The great thing about KSU now is that y'all have a VITA site. So, I'll tell y'all what the experience is like going to a VITA site. Our VITA site here is walk-in. It's at the KSU Center. You come with all your required tax documents, and I'll talk about that in a bit, about what you need to bring. And you'll fill out an intake form. You'll meet with a preparer, and then the preparer will go through the intake form with you, make sure you have all the documents that match what you put in the intake form. And then they'll prepare the return. The return then goes to a quality reviewer. This is kind of how we ensure the accuracy of our returns. That quality reviewer will then review the return with you line by line and let you know if, what credits and credits you're eligible for, what your refund would be, and then they can file it on the spot. I've got a slide at the end here that'll tell you where to go and what you need to bring. But in terms of, filing taxes, the basics, if you work for an employer, you work for yourselves, you likely have to file a tax return. Employees report the taxes they withhold. That includes income, Social Security, Medicare taxes on a W-2 form. How many of you have gotten a W-2 form? You gotten a W-2 form in the mail this year? Okay. All right. And employees use that information on the W-2 to complete their individual income tax returns. So all wages, salaries, bonuses, commissions, tips are taxable, even if they are not reported on the W-2. And one of the things that, essentially any income you get is taxable. I know that, and so when you talk to, say, a tax professional, and y'all don't tell me if this is the case, but when you're talking to a tax professional and you say, had babysitting jobs during the year. Now, I know my daughter had babysitting jobs during the year and did not report that on her taxes. It's generally kind of an under-the-table thing. But if you go to your tax professional and you say, I received, $700 last year from babysitting jobs, it will have to be reported on your taxes. And that's when I say everything that is income should be reported. Not all income gets reported on a W-2 or a 1099. So self-employed people, contractors, will often get a 1099. So technically, if you are contracting with someone for some kind of work, you're supposed to be getting a 1099 that person provides to you. The minimum income required to file taxes is $14,600 for a single individual. And just because you didn't earn federal income tax, just because you didn't earn that much, doesn't mean it's not worth it to go ahead and file. Most of the time, if you earn less than $14,600, most of the time, particularly if you're a W-2 employee, you're probably eligible for some form of refund. And then we were talking earlier about the different tax credits you might be eligible for. So a tax refund is owed to taxpayers when their total tax payments are greater than the total tax. So on that W-2 form, you'll see all those little boxes that has the money that's being withheld from income tax, Medicare, Social Security. So that withholding, you probably remember filling out a form when you first started with whatever employer it is and marking some boxes. That kind of determined how much they were going to withhold from your check for those taxes. So when you actually get to filing the taxes, depending on how much is withheld, that's what determines how much you owe or what your refund is. So I said before, minimum income required to file is $14,600 for an individual, $29,200 for married filing jointly. Most often makes sense to file a tax return to ensure you're receiving the refunds and credits you're entitled to. So commonly claimed tax credits include the American Opportunity Tax Credit. I actually didn't include the Lifetime Learning Credit, but that may be one that some of y'all are eligible for. The Earned Income Tax Credit, if you're working full or part-time, that can only be claimed if you are being claimed as a dependent by your parents or some guardian, a dependent for anybody, then you're not able to claim the earned income tax credit. There may be some other credits you may not be able to claim. I believe the American Opportunity Tax Credit may be claimed by, and some of the education credits, if they're being claimed by your parents or you know, whoever's listing you as a dependent, then you're not able to claim that on your own tax return. I am not the tax law expert. That's the great thing about going to a VITA site, is you can go to the VITA site and they can go through exactly what you're eligible for and what you're not. If you do have children, if you do have dependents, you can file a child tax credit for the child tax credit as well. What to bring to your local VITA or TCE site. So for VITA sites, we have to have photo ID. So that can be valid U.S. driver's license, employer ID, school ID, state ID, military ID, national ID, visa, or passport. You will need a social security card. How many of you have your social security card? If you don't have it, do you know where to get it? Okay. So check with your parents or you know, if you can, because they may have it.
Do we need the actual physical card, or like can you just make a copy?
If you have an image or a copy, that should be fine. Yep. So if you need somebody to send it to you, that would be great. At the VITA sites, we need to have both of those to even start the return. So if you don't have a social security number, you would need an individual taxpayer identification number, also known as an I-10. If you don't have an I-10, we actually have what are called certified acceptance agents. One is at Community Assistance Center in Sandy Springs, I think is the closest to here, and they can help you apply for one. So you would need birth dates, talking about the wage and earning statement, so that's Form W-2 or the Form 1099. And then you've got a load of stuff that probably may not apply to you, but the big thing, what's the big form that y'all get from the school? Do y'all remember the number? 1098T.
What is it like? What is it used for?
Well, it shows that you're currently a full-time student. I believe it can show whether you're eligible for one of those education credits.
Okay.
Now, again, that's all dependent on if you're currently being a dependent on someone else's return, so ostensibly your parents' return. That can impact that, but you'll want to make sure and bring it, and the tax preparer can go over it with you. The other big thing is to bring, to know what to bring if you have like a canceled check, or usually you can just write down your routing number and bank account number, and that's so that, you know, when the return is processed, so that we can make sure that you get the refund through. You can get it through paper check, but that's sometimes, you know, that can take like up to a month. So it's usually better, and I know y'all are used to probably doing EFT. So Georgia, how many of you were living here when the hurricane came through Georgia last September? If you were, your federal tax deadline has been extended to May 1st. So, and that goes for all Georgians. You just have to have been living in the state when the hurricane came through. So, I mean, we didn't get it as bad as some other places, but we got the...
Even if we weren't affected, we still get that tax extension?
Yep, it's for the whole state.
Okay.
Yeah, so April 15th generally is going to be the tax deadline. This year, it happens to be May 1st for that specific group of people, which I imagine is a lot of you. Now, our VITA site here is only open through April 12th. So if you do want to get assistance at the VITA site, make sure to get your stuff in before that. Any other questions?
Just have a question, but it's about myfreetaxes.com. Is there any maximum income for that, or?
Yes, the max income for My Free Taxes is $84,000. So if you go to My Free Taxes, and what'll happen is that if you go to My Free Taxes, it'll ask you a few questions. If you show your income as being over $84,000, it'll route you to a paid site. But if it's under 84, it'll be free.